Hello, this is Patrick Byrne, founder of the America Project. I'm here with Brad Dacus of the Pacific Justice Institute. Brad, thanks for joining the America Project.
Oh, it's great to be on the program, Patrick.
I want to talk about the Pacific Justice Institute, and I want to talk about China. Let's start with your work at the Pacific Justice Institute. Sounds like a wonderful program.
Well, thank you. We defend religious freedom, parents' rights, and the sanctity of human life, all without charge. And Patrick, we have 36 offices, coast to coast, in 29 states. We have the largest footprint of its kind. We have over 250 cases in active litigation. Some of those are major class action lawsuits, like the one we have against the city of San Francisco for purging people of faith from the workplace. But we're also very committed to making sure that no one's left on the side of the road so that everyone gets help. So, for example, we help parents to have their rights defended. When it comes to social workers threatening to take their kids, we give them emergency counsel. School districts going rogue and requiring certain pronouns, we hold them accountable. We're also very committed to making sure that religious freedom is protected. And so we like to empower churches and synagogues to be able to have their voice heard. So one thing we're doing when it comes to elections, for example, is we are empowering churches to do voter registration Sundays. And we've helped, last election we had over 500 that we got to do voter registration Sundays, recruiting over 15,000 new voters, impacting 4 congressional races specifically, their outcomes. But we're expanding even more in 2024. Through these churches, we recruit people to run for school boards. So we had 44 candidates recruited to run for school boards. 23 of those won and defeated teacher union puppets. And then most importantly, we're helping churches recruit people to be poll workers and poll watchers. It's at the ground level that we're going to stop voter fraud. And for example, the election of Mike Garcia, that turned out the way it did because we recruited through churches poll workers and poll watchers. We disqualified enough fraudulent ballots that it shifted the outcome of the election.
And of course, every fraudulent ballot cancels the vote of one real citizen. So it's mass voter suppression. When they're doing this, to me, it's like the Jim Crow South, when they were keeping people from voting. But they're doing it's now not done with sheriff deputies sitting there with a Doberman pincher. They're done by entering fraudulent ballots.
Yeah, it's very widespread. But I think part of it, of being successful against it, is mobilizing the grassroots. And the best way, historically, to mobilize the grassroots on major issues and causes of liberty is through the churches getting actively engaged. And I think many pastors realize when the churches were shut down that the fire of tyranny is no longer on the mountain next door. The fire is now on the front steps of their cathedral.
Well, the cathedral's on fire.
Yes.
Actually.
So they realize, oh yeah, freedom, liberty, it does matter because our ability to continue to do what we want to do is on the line, as we saw recently.
As a lawyer, why is it the First Amendment, the first liberty it guarantees is what?
Oh, right, the free exercise of religion.
Yes, because conscience you have to have a free conscience before you can then speak freely, hence the second, then before you can assemble and talk about it, and then you go petition your government for redress of grievance. There's a reason they're in that order. It all begins with a free mind, a free conscience, which begins with religious or spiritual liberty.
Yeah, in fact, our founding fathers repeatedly, numerous times, made it very clear that unless we have a nation of faith, we cannot maintain our freedoms, because it's out of faith that we have virtue, and it's from virtue that we have freedom and the ability to have liberty and not have a government having to control everything in our lives to maintain order. But when you have a moral people of virtue grounded with faith, that is where we have our freedom and liberty, and so that's why it's so important we defend that freedom and liberty.
I like to think it's possible for people even without faith to be men or women of virtue.
Yes.
They may have different thought, but it is something that Alexander de Tocqueville noted, that what let us be such a free society was how religious we were. we didn't need this external compulsion, but that if we ever stopped being religious, he didn't know what was going to happen. That was an observation he made almost 200 years ago.
Right.
Tell me about your thoughts on China. Are they our friend?
No.
No? What are they up to?
They're not a friend. I did a guest speaking tour not too long ago in South Korea and also in Hong Kong. They get it. They know who China is and what their end goal is. I talked to a gentleman specifically. It was a pastor in South Korea. I said, why are South Koreans seemingly so diligent to work so hard? He looked and he said, looked in the distance, he said, because we know with China we only have so much time. They get it. They understand the threat. They understand China's goals. More immediately, our threat is very, very large, and it's growing, partly because we have a very weak president. A weak leader is the catalyst for a strong offense against us, historically.
Sic vis pacem parabellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. I think he's so bad, I think he's almost inviting it. In any case, I don't think the Chinese will let him get through this term and miss this opportunity to go for Taiwan.
Yeah, I don't hear many in the news talking about that, but I agree with you 100%. We were talking before the show about that. I believe that China, they know that if Trump gets in, they can't take Taiwan, and not for at least 4 years. But they know with Biden in the White House, Biden will twiddle his thumbs and say, well, we're examining this, we're investigating, we're looking at our strategy, and in 24 hours, Taiwan will have potentially been taken. It's over. China knows that. They are, right now as we speak, they are building up their military defenses, not dramatically in a way to scare and intimidate. They're doing it very subtly but methodically right there on the other side of the water from Taiwan. So they're building up. We know what their strategy is, we know what their commitment is, and we know we have a very weak president that unfortunately I think there's a high risk will result in China facilitating a major attack on Taiwan. And the question is, to what extent is China going to also attack the United States? We know recently the Chinese government have been hacking infrastructure to test it, apparently. They're doing it for a reason, not just intimidation. I believe they're doing it to potentially also to take out the United States at the same time they go to take out Taiwan. We'll see what happens.
I think they have already attacked us. I think that the election of 2020 was the attack.
Yes, I agree.
And but they think in long terms, and they work in many different dimensions at once. And yeah, I am aware of their. And normally, the attack on infrastructure, we had mutually assured destruction on that. We are just as good at taking down their infrastructure if we had to. I don't know if our president will. If they take out our infrastructure, will Biden just let it happen? I don't know who the guy's really working for. Is he really this bad, or is this deliberate?
Yeah, that's the big question. I like to think that it's just accidental. He just has incompetent people. But many people who are in the White House controlling this president are globalists. They don't have a lot of respect for our borders. Frankly, they don't have a lot of respect for preserving the United States. They want a reset.
Well, they hate the United States. I know these kinds of people. They
Right.
hate the United States.
They
always
do.
have. They barely could hide it.
Yes.
The hard left. What they hate is limited government, because they have all these plans for the world and how much better they could make the world if only they weren't fettered by this
Right.
constitution.
Right.
And, meanwhile, whenever they have a chance to do anything that I've ever seen, they destroy it. They're terrible. At anything they get asked to get an opportunity to run, like California or the withdrawal from Afghanistan or medical care.
Yeah, it's so much incompetence that it's not incompetence. It's an orchestrated movement and agenda. So this is very real. China knows about it. So I think there's a higher risk, much higher risk than we're seeing in the media, of a Chinese attack on Taiwan, and possibly at least a demobilizing of the United States. Make no mistake, if we had Trump in the White House, we would not have this issue with Taiwan right now. we would not have Ukraine and Russia at war. We would not have the Israeli war with the Gaza. Weakness precipitates war. We saw that in World War II. We're going to see it. Unfortunately, I think there's a good chance we'll see it again. In the meantime, we need to work hard for this next election. We at PJI are working all across the country, once again, to empower churches to register their people to vote, to encourage people to run for office, and to encourage their people to be poll workers and poll watchers. And we have great resources, including our e-newsletter, to empower people on our cases, as well as how they can protect their children. And it's all available on our website, pji.org, pji.org. We greatly appreciate people who support our work as well.
Good for you. And it's my experience that about half the pastors are wimps and are going along with this.
They're pleasers of men, not pleasers of God. They need to stand up and be bold like the pastors and clergy.
They can just look at what California was doing during COVID to understand what their future looks like.
Right.
Listen, thank you so much for visiting the America Project, and best of luck with the Pacific.
Patrick, you too. Thank you for the work that you're doing. I so appreciate it.